If you're looking for books that will actually make you smarter instead of just feeling productive, these 15 recommendations aren't your typical self-help books promising life hacks. These are books that genuinely expand how you think about the world. Hi, I'm Anna, and this is Tucker, and we hope you're having a great day. Today I'm sharing books that made me smarter in real, measurable ways. Some of these I read over 20 years ago, and I still think about them regularly. Others of these I've read with my kids, and they've sparked conversations that have changed how we see the world. These aren't random picks from trending lists, although one of them might be on a trending list right now, but most of them aren't. They are books that I've personally tested, and I can tell you exactly why each one rewires your brain. So let's dive in. First up, A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. I read this one over 20 years ago as a freshly graduated computer engineer, and I still think about it regularly. That should tell you something about its staying power. Bryson takes the most complex scientific concepts, how we figured out the age of the Earth, why we have elements, how evolution actually works, and makes them not just understandable, but genuinely fascinating. What makes Bryson brilliant is his writing style. He adds just enough humor to keep you engaged while explaining mind-blowing concepts at the same time. I actually have his newer book, The Body, A Guide for Occupants, which is a great title, by the way, on my to-buy list because I trust him to make complex topics accessible and entertaining. And these days, complex topics that are accessible, definitely my jam. The Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene. This book completely changed how I think about reality. I'll be completely honest, I read this one over 20 years ago as well, and I don't remember every detail, but I will never forget Greene's garden hose analogy for explaining curled up hidden dimensions in string theory. The idea that there could be entire dimensions we can't perceive, curled up so small we miss them entirely. That concept still fascinates me. Back when I read this in the early aughts, string theory was becoming mainstream cultural knowledge. Everybody wanted to know about it. But Greene's explanations are still relevant today. He makes theoretical physics feel approachable and not intimidating. Next up are a few books about history that are meant to kind of change your perspective on what you think you know. I have An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. This book was genuinely eye-opening. History, as it's taught in classrooms, is not exactly how things went down. And this book shows you how things actually got to be the way they are today by taking a less filtered look at the past. I read this one with my kids, so I actually have the For Young People edition down here. There is an adult version as well, but I recommend either of them. Reading alternative perspectives on your own country's history teaches you both about the country and yourself as someone who grew up in it. It's not comfortable reading, I'm going to warn you, but it's essential for understanding the full picture. Speaking of alternative perspectives on how our systems work, this one's obscure but really impactful. This is Out of Order by Thomas Patterson. I read this book for AP Government and History, so I was a senior, and here's how I know it changed my thinking. I am a bona fide bookworm who's kept books through college and countless moves, but I maybe only have 10 or 15 books left from my teenage years. This book made the cut every single time, and it sits alongside my Christopher Pike horror novels and my Jude Deveraux romances. So that's how I know it's got staying power. It's all about the media's influence on politics. It's written in 1994, before fake news was even a term. This isn't partisan commentary. It's civic education about how media shapes our perceptions of political processes. Understanding this makes you a more informed citizen, regardless of your political views. Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. I haven't actually read this one yet, but I own the Young Readers edition, so this one, because my kids and I love the movie so much. You know, at the very end of the movie, when they do the credits and they show the slideshow of the people in real life, the pictures, and, you know, their accomplishments and kind of what they did and where they ended up in life, we were so fascinated by that. I went out and got the book because we wanted to know the real story. This is such an important story, especially for girls and young women. There's been such a big push in the last 10 to 15 years to get women and girls into STEM fields, and while it's helped, we're still outnumbered quite a bit. These are women who were doing groundbreaking work when that was even harder than it is today. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kamkwamba. I hope I got that right. Again, this is the Young Readers edition because I read this with my kids. So this is just an amazing story in general. There's scientific insight throughout, but it's also a window into a completely different life from much of what the rest of the world experiences. It's deeply inspiring. This young man literally built a wind turbine to bring power to his village using scraps and determination. Reading this book makes you think differently about resourcefulness, ingenuity, and what's actually possible with determination and learning. Next up, I have a few classics that I still think are really relevant to today. And if you know anything about me, I apparently can't do a list without putting some classics on here. So most of these I've talked about before, but I still think that they belong in this list as well. The first one up is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and I know I have probably talked your ear off about this one, but it's worth mentioning again because it's that good. I recently reread this with my daughter, and 25 years after reading it in high school, it still holds up completely. What's sad is that in some ways, I feel like we haven't come that much further than where we were when I first read it in the late 90s. But that's exactly why it's still essential reading. It deals with justice, moral courage, and seeing people as individuals rather than stereotypes. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This was one of my top 3 favorite books from my junior year of high school. And I took 2 years of AP English literature, so we read a lot of books. Huxley's vision of a society controlled through pleasure rather than pain feels incredibly relevant now. It makes you think about technology, social control, and what we're willing to trade for comfort. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I know, I've mentioned this one a lot too. I haven't read this one since high school either, but I do own a copy, as you can see right here, and I'm hoping to revisit it soon. But what stuck with me all these years is Fitzgerald's dissection of the American dream. The idea that wealth and status can buy happiness and acceptance. The symbolism is so embedded in our culture now, but experiencing it firsthand in the novel gives you the framework for recognizing those same patterns everywhere. It's one of those books that teaches you to see through the surface level glamour to the emptiness that's underneath. 1984 and Animal Farm by George Orwell. So I actually bought Animal Farm earlier this year, and I could have sworn I bought 1984 too, but I can't find it right now. But I do plan on reading this one, at least, that I have in hand, sometime soon, because I literally can't believe I got into my 40s and I haven't read these books yet. I don't know. Yeah, I was sleeping on the job. Their concepts are so embedded in our culture that they're essential literacy, which again is why I don't know how I got to this point in life without having read them before. Understanding terms like Big Brother and doublethink isn't just cultural knowledge. It's critical thinking tools for analyzing modern politics and media. And the last few on my list are all nonfiction books dealing with social justice. The first one is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. So I actually just bought this one and I included it in my latest haul video. If you are interested in checking that video out, I'll share the link below in the description. I bought this book because I'm slightly obsessed with true crime documentaries and podcasts, so it seemed like a natural fit. But it's more than just entertainment. I think it benefits everyone to learn about our justice system, both how it works and how it's broken. Most of us try to stay on the right side of the law, I hope. But one critical wrong decision, and it could have consequences that you'd never expect. Understanding this system matters, whether you think it'll affect you or not. And the rest of the books on my list, I don't actually have physical copies of, and I haven't read them yet, but they are on my list to read, and they include Educated by Tara Westover, which is the one that I think is probably trending right now, or was trending recently, The Radium Girls by Kate Moore, and The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. These three round out my list. Like I said, I haven't read them yet, but they're all about important topics. Education's power to transform lives, workers' rights and corporate responsibility, and medical ethics. They're books that tackle big questions about society, science, and human rights. All right, so I think we've reached the defend your thesis portion of the video. So let me tell you why I think these books will actually make you smarter. They're not just good books. They're books that change how you process information. The science books expand your understanding of how our natural world actually works. The history books give you context for current events. The classics teach you to recognize timeless patterns in human behavior. And the social justice books develop critical thinking about systems and fairness. When I read that Bryson book over 20 years ago as a new engineer, I was hungry to understand more about our universe. These books satisfied that curiosity while teaching me to think bigger and more critically. Personally, I think that's what getting smarter really means. It's not about memorizing facts. It's not about how much trivia you know. It's about developing better frameworks for understanding complexity. I'm curious to know, what books have genuinely made you smarter? Not just entertained you or made you feel productive, but actually changed how you think. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for my next mind-expanding read. Just make sure that whatever you recommend for me anyways is like easier to read than Sapiens, because with my brain the way it is these days, complex is not my friend. If you are curious to know about my personal reading journey that I've been on the last few years, I did a whole video on it and I will link it in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more of this content and more Tucker, who is currently asleep right now next to me, as he always is. I really can only ever get him to join me for the intro, and then he looks at me and he's like, "Can I nap yet? Is it nap time? How about now? No? I have to look pretty for the camera still?" I mean, it's this whole inner monologue that goes on between me and him. I know he can't speak English, but I can see it in his eyes, you know? Anyways, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.